My daughter looked me dead in the eye and said, "Dad, sign the house over to my husband." I'm Tom Wilson, 58 years old. Built Wilson Brothers Construction from a $500 loan. Ashley thought I was just some broke contractor she could manipulate. Her tech executive husband, Brad, called me simple and unsophisticated. They wanted my $1.2 million house because my blue-collar background embarrassed them at country club events. What they didn't know? I'd been recording their conversations for months. Every insult, every scheme, every federal crime Brad was committing at his company. So I made a choice. Sold the house, donated $847,000 to kids who actually respect hard work, called the FBI. 48 hours later, Brad was in handcuffs and Ashley was unemployed. You know what's funny about entitled people? They never see the hammer coming until it hits. March 15th, 2024. That's when I first saw how my daughter really felt about me. I'd driven my Ford F450 to Ashley's office for lunch. Nothing fancy, just a father wanting to see his kid. I'd showered twice that morning, scrubbed the concrete dust from under my fingernails, put on my cleanest Carhartt shirt. Still wasn't enough. "Dad, you can't park that truck here," Ashley whispered, glancing around the glass lobby. "This is a professional building." I looked at my 2-year-old Super Duty. $89,000 paid in cash. "It's a nice truck, honey." "It's a work truck. People will think—" She trailed off, but I heard it. "People will think you're just some contractor." Which I was, for 35 years. But I swallowed it, like I always did. 2 weeks later, Brad, her husband of 6 months, made things clearer. We were at their apartment, celebrating Ashley's promotion to marketing director. I'd brought champagne, $200 bottle, because my daughter deserved the best. Brad looked at the label. "Interesting choice, Tom. Very practical." He poured it into glasses I'd never seen before. Crystal. Probably cost more than I made in a day, back when I started out. "So, Tom," Brad said, settling into his leather chair, "Ashley tells me you do construction." "I own Wilson Brothers Construction. Built it from nothing." "Ah," Brad smiled. "The self-made man. How quaint." He said it like I'd told him I collected bottle caps. Ashley jumped in. "Brad's company, Dataflow Systems, just landed a $15 million contract with the state." "Impressive," I said. "Family business," Brad explained. "My father founded it. I'm just carrying on the tradition. Just carrying on. No building, no struggling, no $500 loan and 7-day work weeks. Just inheriting success like it was eye color." "Dad's hands are always dirty," Ashley said, laughing. "Even when he's not working." I looked down at my hands. 40 years of concrete and steel had left permanent stains. Calluses that would never fade. These hands had built half the commercial buildings in this city. These hands had paid for Ashley's $180,000 education. Brad leaned forward. "You know, Tom, there's dignity in honest work. Someone has to do the manual labor. Someone has to. Like it was charity. Like I was doing society a favor by existing." "Dad," Ashley said, "you should meet Brad's friends sometime. They'd love to hear your stories." I bet they would. Gather around the working man. Watch him dance for their entertainment. But I smiled, nodded, played my part. Because I loved my daughter, because I thought family meant something. I drove home that night in my work truck, past the office building I'd helped construct, past the shopping center where my crew had poured every square foot of foundation, past 35 years of sweat and pride that apparently embarrassed the woman I'd given everything to. That's when I started paying attention, really paying attention, to the way Ashley introduced me at events. "This is my father. He works in construction." To the way Brad talked to me. Slow, loud, like I might not understand big words. To the way they exchanged glances when I told stories about work. Little smiles. Inside jokes about the old man who still thought concrete mattered. But here's what they didn't know. Wilson Brothers Construction employed 45 people. Our annual revenue was $4.2 million. My personal net worth was $3.2 million, not counting the house. The house they were about to demand I give away. April 1st. 2024. No joke intended. That's when Ashley called with her proposal. "Dad, we need to talk. Can you come over tonight?" Her voice had that careful tone, the one she used with difficult clients. I knew something was wrong when I walked into their apartment and found legal documents spread across the dining table. Brad was wearing his navy suit, the one he saved for important meetings. Ashley had changed out of her work clothes into something formal. This wasn't dinner. This was an intervention. "Sit down, Dad."
Ashley said, gesturing to the chair across from them. I sat, waited. Brad cleared his throat. Tom, we've been discussing your living situation. My living situation, like I was some elderly relative who'd lost his mind. The house is too big for you, Ashley continued. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. You're rattling around in there all alone. I'd bought that house in 1992. 1,300 square feet then, but I'd added on. Master suite in 2001, finished basement in 2005, deck and 3-season porch in 2010. Every board, every nail, every square inch built with my own hands.
It's also valuable real estate, Brad added. Prime location. The property alone is worth $800,000, but with your additions, we're looking at $1.2 million. We're looking at. Like it belonged to all of us. Here's what we're proposing, Ashley said, sliding papers toward me. You sign the house over to Brad and me. We'll take care of all the property taxes, maintenance, everything. You can rent a nice apartment downtown, much more convenient. I picked up the documents. Quitclaim deed, already filled out. Just needed my signature. This way, Brad said, the house stays in the family. And honestly, Tom, Ashley's career is really taking off. Image matters in her field. Image matters. What Brad means, Ashley said quickly, is that when we have business dinners, client events, it would be helpful to have a home that reflects our professional status. Our professional status, not mine. I thought about the client events I'd attended. Construction industry dinners where city councilmen shook my hand. Chamber of Commerce meetings where the mayor asked my opinion on infrastructure projects. Awards ceremonies where they'd given me plaques for hiring veterans, for supporting local schools. Apparently that status didn't count. The neighborhood's changing too, Brad continued. A lot of new money moving in. Tech executives, finance people, professional class, as opposed to working class, as opposed to people like me. Dad, Ashley said, her voice softer now, you've worked so hard your whole life. Don't you want to retire? Enjoy yourself? Let us worry about property management? Retire. I was 58 years old. I could work another 20 years if I wanted. But that wasn't really what this was about. Where would I go? I asked. There's a beautiful complex downtown, Ashley said, pulling out a brochure. 1-bedroom units, very modern. And Dad, it's only $1,200 a month. $1,200 a month to rent a box after owning a home for 32 years. The lease is month to month, Brad added helpfully. Very flexible, very temporary, very easy to change their minds if I became inconvenient. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she become a stranger? Ashley, I said slowly, this house is my legacy. Everything I built, everything I earned. Dad, you can't take it with you, she interrupted. And honestly, maintaining a house that size at your age, it's not practical. At my age, 58 wasn't ancient. I could still frame a house, pour a foundation, work circles around men half my age, but in Ashley's world, I was already obsolete. Think about it, Brad said, straightening his tie. No more lawn maintenance, no more repairs, no more property taxes. You'd be free. Free. From everything I'd worked for, from the only thing that proved I'd been here. I set the papers down carefully. I need time to think. Of course, Ashley said. But Dad, don't wait too long. We're hoping to finalize this before Brad's company picnic in May. It would be nice to host something elegant. In the house I'd built. With the money I'd earned. For people who thought I wasn't good enough to attend. I drove home that night thinking about 35 years of mortgage payments, of every weekend spent building instead of relaxing, of every overtime hour that paid for Ashley's college, her wedding, her start in life. I thought about what would happen if I said no. They'd keep pushing, keep making me feel small, keep treating me like a problem to be solved instead of a father to be respected. But I also thought about what would happen if I said yes. If I became the man who gave up everything for people who were ashamed of him. That's when I realized the stakes weren't just financial. They were about who I was, who I'd always been, and who I'd die being. May 4th, 2024. The Riverside Country Club Spring Mixer. Ashley had insisted I come. It's important, Dad. Brad's being considered for a board position. I should have known it was a setup. The country club sat on 40 acres of manicured perfection. Valet parking, marble foyer, crystal chandeliers that probably cost more than most people's cars. I'd driven past this place 1,000 times, never imagining I'd be inside. Ashley met me at the entrance, wearing a black dress I didn't recognize. Probably cost more than I spent on clothes in a year. Dad, you look... She paused, scanning my outfit. Nice. I was wearing my best suit, navy blue, bought for her wedding, dry cleaned that morning. "Where's Brad?" I asked. "Networking. Come on, I'll introduce you to some people." She led me through rooms full of men in $1,000 suits and women dripping diamonds. The conversation stopped when we approached. Polite smiles, curious glances. "Everyone, this is my father, Tom Wilson," Ashley announced to a group near the bar. "Tom's in construction," she added quickly. Like an apology. "Ah," said a silver-haired man in a Rolex. "Commercial or residential?" "Both. I own Wilson Brothers Construction." "Own?" His eyebrows raised slightly. "Impressive. Small outfit?" 45 employees. We handle most of the municipal contracts downtown." "Municipal work," another man said. "Steady money in that. Steady money." Like I was a utility worker, not someone who'd built half their city. "Tom," Ashley said, "this is Richard Pemberton. He sits on the hospital board." Pemberton extended a soft hand. Manicured nails. Probably never held anything heavier than a pen. "Wilson Construction," he mused. "Haven't heard of you." "We built the new emergency wing at General," I said. "Really? I thought that was Mackenzie Engineering." "Mackenzie did the plans. We did the actual building." "Ah," he smiled. "The subcontractor." Subcontractor. Like I was invisible. Like my name wasn't on the plaques. My signature wasn't on the inspection reports. Brad appeared at my elbow, scotch in hand. "Tom, you made it." He was different here. Confident, in his element. "Gentlemen," Brad said, "meet my father-in-law. Salt of the earth type. Salt of the earth. Code for simple, uncomplicated. Not quite one of us." "Tom was just telling us about his construction work," Pemberton said. "Yes, very admirable," Brad replied. "Honest work, getting your hands dirty, building America, right, Tom?" The group chuckled. Inside joke. The noble savage with his noble dirt. "Actually," I said, "we're working on the new courthouse. $50 million project." "50 million?" A new voice joined us. "That's serious money." I turned, a woman in pearls watching me with interest. "Patricia Morrison," she introduced herself. "My husband's in commercial real estate. Tom Wilson, Wilson Brothers Construction." Her eyes sharpened. "Wilson Brothers. You're the one who renovated the Morrison building on 5th Street." "That's right. Beautiful project." "I remember now. Excellent work. On time, under budget." Finally, someone who understood what I did. "Tom's being modest," Brad interjected. "It's really about managing the subcontractors, right, Tom? Keeping the real professionals on schedule." "Real professionals, not me. Never me." "Actually," Patricia said, "I was impressed with the craftsmanship, especially the lobby work. That was your crew, wasn't it?" "Every square foot," I confirmed. Brad's smile tightened. "Well, teamwork makes the dream work." He was trying to minimize me, in front of people who actually knew quality when they saw it. "Tom," Pemberton said, "what's your take on the new development restrictions downtown?" Before I could answer, Brad jumped in. "Tom's more of a nuts and bolts guy. Policy isn't really his wheelhouse." "Actually," I said, "I've been working with the city planning committee for 5 years. Those restrictions affect every project we bid." "Oh?" Pemberton looked genuinely interested. "What's your position?" "The height restrictions make sense for historical preservation, but the parking requirements are killing smaller developments." "Exactly," Patricia said. "We've been arguing that for months." I was starting to enjoy myself. These people weren't all snobs. Some understood business. "Tom," Brad said loudly, "didn't you say you needed to get going? Early morning tomorrow?" I hadn't said anything like that. "I'm fine, Brad." "Right, but you know how you get when you're tired. How I get, like I was a child past his bedtime." The group had gone quiet, watching this strange little drama. "I'm not tired, Brad." His face flushed. Ashley appeared beside him, tension radiating from her smile. "Dad," she said, "maybe we should check out the buffet?" But I wasn't moving. Something had shifted. These people weren't the enemy. Brad was. "Tom does amazing work," Patricia said, filling the silence. "We should connect you with our architect. We're planning another renovation." "That would be great," I said. "Of course," Brad said. "Tom's pretty busy with the blue-collar stuff. Might not be the right fit for your aesthetic." Blue-collar stuff. My aesthetic. The insult hung in the air like smoke. Patricia's expression hardened. "Excuse me?" "I just mean," Brad backtracked, "Tom's expertise is in practical construction. Your projects are more refined than what I built." "Mr. Richardson," Patricia said coldly, "I've seen Mr. Wilson's work. It's exceptional." Brad had gone too far. Even his crowd was uncomfortable now.
Of course, he mumbled. I didn't mean, but I knew exactly what he meant, and so did everyone else. That's when I made my decision. It was time to stop pretending we were family.
I excused myself from the group and walked outside to make a phone call. The number was programmed in my phone under Detective Johnson. Sarah had been a client 3 years ago, robbery victim whose house needed major repairs. Insurance wouldn't cover it all, and she was a single mom. I'd done the work for free. Sarah, it's Tom Wilson. Tom, how are you? Please tell me you're not calling about my kitchen faucet again? Nothing like that. I need a favor. Name it. After what you did for us, anything? I need to know about a company called Dataflow Systems and a man named Brad Richardson. Silence. Then, Tom, why are you asking about that? He's my son-in-law. Oh no. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, oh no? Tom, I can't discuss active investigations, but be careful around that family. Very careful. Active investigations? I've said too much already. But Tom, if you have any financial entanglements with them, you might want to rethink those. Financial entanglements? Like signing over my house. Sarah, is there someone I should talk to? Federal Building downtown, Agent Patricia Moore, Financial Crimes Unit. Tell her I sent you. I hung up and walked back inside, my mind racing. Brad was still networking, Ashley by his side. They looked like the perfect power couple, young, attractive, successful. But now I was seeing cracks, the way Brad's hand shook slightly when he talked about quarterly reports, the way Ashley changed the subject whenever money came up, the lease on Brad's BMW instead of ownership, the furniture in their apartment, all financed, no cash purchases. I thought about their apartment building, luxury complex, but not the most expensive in town. I thought about Ashley's designer clothes, always one season behind, probably bought on sale. They were living above their means, way above, and they needed my house to maintain the illusion. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. $3.2 million in business accounts. Another $800,000 in personal savings. My house, worth $1.2 million, completely paid off. I was worth more than $5 million, and they thought I was some broke contractor they could manipulate. When I walked back into the main room, I saw Brad talking to Pemberton, animated, gesturing with his drink. Of course, my father-in-law is a good man, Brad was saying. Simple needs, simple life, probably happier than any of us. Simple. There was that word again. Ashley nodded along. Dad's never been complicated, very straightforward. Straightforward, like simple, like uncomplicated, like not quite bright enough to understand complex things, like their scheme to steal my house. But I wasn't simple, and I wasn't stupid. I was just quiet. For 35 years, I'd let my work speak for itself. Built buildings that would stand for centuries, employed men and women who supported their families, paid my taxes, contributed to my community, never asked for handouts or special treatment. But somewhere along the way, quiet had become invisible. Humble had become weak. My own daughter saw my success as embarrassing, my generosity as expectation, my love as obligation. Well, maybe it was time to be a little less quiet. I walked over to the group. Everything okay, Dad? Ashley asked. Perfect, I said. Just making some phone calls. Business calls, Pemberton asked. You could say that. Brad laughed. Tom's always got something in the works. Right, Tom? Something like that. But I wasn't looking at Brad anymore. I was looking at Ashley. My daughter. The woman I'd worked 60-hour weeks to support. Who I'd sacrificed weekends and vacations and sleep to provide for. Who wanted me to sign away everything I'd built so she could pretend I didn't exist. Dad, Ashley said, you look tired. Maybe we should head out. I'm not tired, I said. I'm just getting started. Because sometimes the foundation has to be torn down before you can build something new. And I was very good at building. May 18th, 2024, 7 p.m. The Grand Ballroom at the Riverside Country Club. Ashley's Charity Gala. $500 per ticket to support disadvantaged youth education. Ashley was on the organizing committee. Brad was giving the keynote speech, and they'd planned to announce their exciting news about inheriting a beautiful family home. I arrived carrying a leather briefcase I hadn't used in years. Inside were documents that would change everything. But first, I had to play their game. The ballroom was packed. 300 guests in formal wear, champagne glasses glittering under crystal chandeliers. I recognized faces from the construction industry, city officials, business leaders. Ashley rushed over when she saw me. Dad, you made it.
You look... She paused, taking in my appearance. I was wearing my best tuxedo.
Rented, not owned, but it fit perfectly. I'd gotten a haircut, a shave, even a manicure. Figured I should look the part for what was coming. "You clean up nice," she said, but her voice was strained. "Listen, Dad, about tonight." "Ashley," Brad appeared, resplendent in his designer tuxedo. "Tom, glad you could make it. Big night for us." "So I hear." "The announcement will be during dinner," Ashley said. "After Brad's speech, we thought it would be nice to share our good news with everyone." Good news. Their theft of my life's work was good news. "Can't wait," I said. Brad clapped me on the shoulder. "You should be proud, Tom. Ashley's put together an incredible event." Around us, conversations swirled. I caught fragments. Beautiful work Ashley's doing. Such a generous family. Wonderful example of giving back. Generous family. If only they knew. Tom Wilson. I turned to see Mike Davis approaching. Union leader, old friend, built like a prizefighter in a $1,000 suit. "Mike, good to see you." "Likewise. Hell of a turnout. Ashley should be proud." "She is," Brad said, inserting himself into the conversation. "I'm Brad Richardson, Ashley's husband. Mike Davis, local 847. Mike's handshake was firm. "Known Tom here for 20 years. Good man. Fair boss." "Yes, we're very proud of Tom," Brad said. "Salt of the earth." There it was again. Salt of the earth. Code for simple, harmless, controllable. "Tom's built half this city," Mike said. "Hospital, courthouse, 3 elementary schools. Good union jobs, every one." "Very admirable," Brad replied. "Manual labor is so important." Manual labor? Like it was charity work. Mike's expression darkened. He knew condescension when he heard it. "Brad works in tech," I explained. "Data flow systems." "Data flow?" Mike's eyebrows rose. "Heard of you folks. Big government contracts." "That's right. We're expanding rapidly." "Bet you are," Mike said quietly. Something in his tone made Brad uncomfortable. "Well, we should find our table. Dinner's starting soon." As Brad walked away, Mike leaned close. "Tom, be careful with that one." "Why?" "Word is his company's in trouble. Federal kind of trouble." My pulse quickened. "What kind of trouble?" "Can't say much. But if I were you, I'd keep my wallet closed around him." Dinner was called. I found my assigned seat, table 12, near the back. Brad and Ashley were at table 1 with the mayor and city council members. I wasn't surprised. Contractors belonged in the back. Brad's speech was everything I expected. Smooth, practiced, full of buzzwords about innovation and community partnership. He talked about giving back, about privilege and responsibility. "Tonight," he said, "Ashley and I want to share some exciting news. We're expanding our ability to serve this community. Thanks to family generosity, we'll soon be hosting events in a beautiful historic home, opening our doors to support causes like this one." Family generosity. My generosity. Without my permission. The audience applauded. Ashley beamed. "This house," Brad continued, "represents everything we value. Hard work, family legacy, and the American dream. Ashley's father, Tom Wilson, built this home with his own hands, and now he's entrusting it to the next generation." Entrusting. Like I'd volunteered. More applause. People turned to look at me. I smiled and nodded, playing the proud father. But inside something was breaking. "Tom Wilson," Brad said, "embodies the best of American values. Simple, honest, hardworking. He's teaching us that success isn't just about money. It's about building something that lasts. Simple, honest, hardworking. The holy trinity of condescension. He was making me into a folk hero while stealing my life. So please join me in thanking Tom for his generosity and for raising a daughter who understands the importance of community service." The room erupted in applause. People stood. Someone started chanting, "Tom, Tom, Tom." I stood slowly, waved, played my part one last time, because in 10 minutes everything was going to change. When the applause died down, the master of ceremonies took the microphone. "Thank you, Brad. Now, as promised, we have a special presentation. Tom Wilson would like to say a few words." This wasn't planned. I'd requested it just an hour ago, claiming I wanted to thank everyone for their support. Ashley looked confused. Brad looked annoyed. I stood and walked to the podium, carrying my briefcase. 300 people watched, including some very special guests who'd arrived during dinner. I opened the briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Thank you," I began. "Brad's right about one thing. I have been generous with my family." I opened the folder. "Over the years, I've given Ashley many gifts. $200,000 for college, $50,000 for her wedding, $25,000 for her car. Numbers, specific numbers. People loved numbers. But the most generous thing I've done is trust her. Trust that she understood the value of what she was given. Trust that she respected the work it took to earn it. Ashley was staring at me, confusion turning to alarm. Tonight, she and Brad want me to give them my house. $1.2 million, sign it over just like that, murmurs in the crowd. This wasn't part of the program. They say I'm too old to maintain it, too simple to understand real estate, too unsophisticated for their social circle. Brad started to stand. I held up my hand. But here's what they don't understand about generosity. It has to be voluntary. It has to be respectful. And it has to be honest. I pulled out another document. This morning I sold my house to Heritage Properties for $1.2 million cash. Gasps. Ashley went pale. Brad looked like he'd been punched. The proceeds will establish the Wilson Family Scholarship Fund, supporting young people who understand that dignity comes from work, not inheritance. The room was dead silent. $847,000, every penny my daughter thought she deserved. I looked directly at Ashley. You're right about one thing, honey. I am simple. Simple enough to believe family means something. Simple enough to think respect should go both ways. I closed the folder. Enjoy your evening. And I walked off the stage, leaving them with the wreckage of their plans and the beginning of their reckoning. The silence lasted exactly 10 seconds. Then chaos. I was halfway back to my table when Brad's voice cut through the murmur. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid there's been some confusion. I stopped walking, turned around. Brad was at the podium now, his face flushed but his voice steady. Tom, I think in your excitement you may have misspoken. The house situation is still being discussed. Still being discussed. Like I was a confused old man who needed supervision. There's no confusion, Brad, I said from the floor. The sale is final. Tom, Ashley called out, can we please discuss this privately? But I wasn't moving. Not anymore. Actually, I said, I think we should discuss it here, since you made your announcement here. I walked back to the podium. Brad reluctantly stepped aside. Folks, I want to be clear about something. I'm not confused. I'm not senile. And I'm not being taken advantage of. I opened my briefcase again. I'm a businessman. Have been for 35 years. Wilson Brothers Construction. Annual revenue, $4.2 million. 45 employees. Current contracts, $12.7 million. Numbers. Hard numbers that cut through sentiment. My personal net worth is $5.1 million. The house was just one asset. The room was riveted. This wasn't the simple contractor they'd been told about. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because of something else I discovered. I pulled out a new folder. Federal letterhead visible from the front row. 3 days ago, I met with FBI agent Patricia Moore, Financial Crimes Division. Very interesting conversation. Brad's face went white. Turns out Data Flow Systems has been under investigation for 6 months. Embezzlement of federal grant money, fraudulent billing, tax evasion. Gasps throughout the room. Ashley grabbed Brad's arm. The investigation started when employees reported suspicious activity. Missing funds, fake contracts, money being moved to offshore accounts. I was making this up as I went, but Brad's reaction told me I was close to something real. Agent Moore was very interested to learn about my family connection to Mr. Richardson, especially when I told her about his urgent need for my house. Brad started, but I cut him off. Is it true, Brad? Is your company under federal investigation? The question hung in the air like a blade. Brad's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Because if it is, I continued, that explains a lot. The desperation, the manipulation, the rush to get assets in your name before the government freezes everything. I turned to face the audience. My daughter asked me to sign over my house to a man who's about to be indicted for federal crimes. Family generosity, she called it. Ashley was crying now. Not from sadness, from humiliation. Mr. Wilson, someone called out, are you saying the government money was stolen? I'm saying Agent Moore has evidence of systematic fraud. Millions of dollars in taxpayer money. Money that was supposed to go to schools, hospitals, infrastructure projects. The crowd was getting angry now. These were taxpayers, civic leaders, people who cared about public money. But that's not even the worst part, I said. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app. 3 weeks ago, I recorded a conversation with my daughter and her husband. Would you like to hear what they really think about this community? Dad, don't, Ashley pleaded. But I was already pressing play. Brad's voice filled the room through the sound system. These people are idiots. Small-town money, small-town thinking. Once we get the house, we can leverage it for real investments in the city. They'll never know what hit them. Shocked murmurs, a few boos. Ashley's voice next. Dad's so naive, he actually thinks he built something important, like anyone couldn't pour concrete and hammer nails. The crowd turned ugly. These people knew construction workers, respected them. Some were married to them. Turn it off, Brad said, moving toward me, but Mike Davis stepped between us. 6'4", 250 pounds of union solidarity. Let him finish, Mike said. The recording continued. More insults, more contempt, more evidence that Brad and Ashley saw everyone in this room as marks to be conned. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Then someone started clapping. Slow, deliberate applause. It was Patricia Morrison, the woman from the country club, the one who'd defended my work. Others joined in, not celebration, vindication. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, I want to thank you for your support over the years. Wilson Brothers Construction has been proud to serve this community. We'll continue doing so long after tonight. I looked at Ashley and Brad, but we'll be more careful about who we trust. The applause grew louder. People stood. Not for me, for the principle I represented. Honest work, real value, authentic community, everything Brad and Ashley had tried to exploit. Now, I said, I believe Agent Moore has something to say. That's when Detective Sarah Johnson stepped forward from the back of the room. With her was a woman in a federal badge and 2 uniformed officers. Brad Richardson, Agent Moore called out, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, embezzlement of federal funds, and money laundering. The room exploded. Camera phones appeared. Social media posts started flying. Brad tried to run, made it 3 steps before the officers tackled him. Ashley stood frozen as they cuffed her husband in front of 300 witnesses. You have the right to remain silent, Agent Moore recited. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The Miranda rights echoed off crystal chandeliers and marble floors. In 30 seconds, Brad Richardson went from keynote speaker to federal prisoner. In 30 seconds, Ashley went from rising social star to notorious accomplice's wife. In 30 seconds, the man they'd called simple and naive became the hero who'd exposed a major fraud. Justice, it turned out, had perfect timing. And sometimes it wore a tuxedo. As they led Brad away, he looked back at me, not anger in his eyes, understanding. He finally knew who he'd been dealing with, someone who built things to last, including consequences. The ballroom cleared fast after the arrest. Donors fled like they'd witnessed a murder. Ashley stood alone by the head table, mascara running, her designer dress wrinkled from stress. I walked over to her. Ashley. She looked up, eyes red with tears and fury. How could you do this to me? To you? This was my event, my reputation. You've destroyed everything. Everything. Her husband was a federal criminal, and she was worried about her reputation. Your husband stole millions of dollars in taxpayer money. Allegedly, she snapped. He hasn't been convicted of anything. Allegedly. Even now she was defending him. Ashley, he was arrested by federal agents. At your charity gala. After I exposed his crimes. There's no allegedly about this. You set him up? I didn't set him up. I just stopped protecting him. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Protecting him from what? From the consequences of his actions, from the justice system, from the truth about who he really is. I sat down beside her at the empty table. For 6 months you've been trying to convince me I'm too old, too simple, too embarrassing to be part of your life. Tonight, you got your wish. What do you mean? I mean I'm done pretending we're family. The words hit her like a physical blow. Dad, you can't mean that. Ashley, you wanted me to sign over my house to a criminal. You called my life's work embarrassing. You treated me like hired help in front of your friends. That's not... I never... You did, all of it. And when I wouldn't go along with your scheme, you planned to humiliate me publicly until I gave in. She was crying harder now, but they were angry tears. So what happens now? You just cut me off? Pretend I don't exist? No. I do what I should have done years ago. I pulled out the last document from my briefcase. This is the Wilson Family Trust. $847,000 from the house sale, plus another $653,000 from my savings. $1.5 million total. Her eyes widened. Hope flickered. The trust will provide scholarships to working-class kids who want to learn trades. Construction, plumbing, electrical work, mechanics, kids who understand the value of honest work. The hope died. Every scholarship recipient will receive a letter explaining that this fund exists because some people still believe in earning their success instead of inheriting it. Dad, please. The fund will be administered by the Community Foundation. No family involvement required. You're giving it all away. I'm investing it in people who deserve it. Ashley looked around the empty ballroom, the overturned chairs, the abandoned champagne glasses. What about me? What about you? I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. And you chose a criminal over your father. You chose social status over family loyalty. You chose greed over love. I stood up. Those choices have consequences. Dad, wait, can't we talk about this? Work something out? Ashley, 3 hours ago you were planning to steal my house. 2 hours ago you were humiliating me in front of 300 people. 1 hour ago you were defending your criminal husband. I picked up my briefcase. What's changed? Besides getting caught? She had no answer. When you're ready to apologize, really apologize, not just for getting caught, call me. But understand something, I'm not the same man who would have signed over his house to keep you happy. What are you saying? I'm saying respect is earned, love is earned, family is earned. I walked toward the exit. And you haven't earned any of those things in a very long time. Behind me, I heard her calling my name, pleading, promising to change, but I kept walking. Outside, the valet brought my truck around, the same F-450 Super Duty that embarrassed Ashley, the same work truck that Brad called unprofessional. I tipped the valet $50 and drove home. To my rental apartment downtown, 1 bedroom, very modern, $1,200 a month, because I'd kept one part of their plan, the part that made sense. I didn't need a 4-bedroom house anymore. Didn't need to maintain property, pay taxes, fix leaky faucets. At 58, maybe I did want to simplify. But on my terms, not theirs. The apartment was small but comfortable. No basement workshop, no 3-season porch, no master suite I'd built with my own hands. But it was mine. Honest. Paid for with clean money. No FBI raids. No federal investigations. No criminal in-laws. Just peace. I poured myself a scotch and sat by the window, looking out at the city I'd helped build. Tomorrow, the news would break. Local construction owner exposes son-in-law's federal crimes. The phones would ring. Reporters would call. Other families would come forward with their own Brad Richardson stories. Ashley would probably be investigated too. Wives of federal criminals usually were. She'd lose her job, her social standing, her financial security, everything she'd valued more than her father. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd spent 35 years building things, buildings that would outlast me, a business that employed families, a reputation based on honesty and quality work. Tonight, I'd built something else, boundaries. And like everything else I'd ever built, they were designed to last. The scotch was good. Expensive, but not as expensive as the lesson Ashley was about to learn. Some things really can't be inherited. They have to be earned. 3 months later, the consequences were still unfolding. Brad Richardson pleaded guilty to 17 federal charges: wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, tax evasion. The government recovered $4.3 million in stolen funds, but another $2 million was still missing, probably in offshore accounts they couldn't touch. His sentence: 12 years in federal prison. No parole. Data flow systems collapsed within a week of his arrest. 43 employees lost their jobs overnight. Federal contracts were canceled. The company's assets were frozen, then liquidated to pay restitution. Ashley was never charged criminally, but the IRS audited 3 years of her tax returns. Turns out she'd been claiming deductions for business expenses that were actually personal luxuries. $15,000 in penalties plus interest. She lost her marketing director job 2 weeks after the gala. Her company couldn't afford the negative publicity. In today's social media world, being married to a federal criminal was career suicide. The BMW was repossessed. The luxury apartment lease was broken. Ashley moved back to her college friend's guest room, sleeping on a futon like she was 22 again. But the worst part was the social isolation. The country club revoked her membership. Former friends stopped returning calls. Charity organizations removed her from their boards. In 6 months, she went from rising social star to social pariah. The recording I'd played at the gala had been shared thousands of times online. Local news stations picked it up. Radio shows played excerpts. Ashley's voice saying, Dad's so naive, he actually thinks he built something important, became a viral soundbite. She was now famous for all the wrong reasons. Meanwhile, the Wilson Family Scholarship Fund was making headlines for the right ones. The first recipients were announced in August. 25 students, all from working-class families, all planning careers in skilled trades. The local newspaper ran a front-page story, From Betrayal to Benefit, How One Father's Heartbreak Became Hope for Others. They interviewed Maria Santos, 17, whose father was a welder. The scholarship would cover her entire apprenticeship program. Mr. Wilson could have kept this money for himself, she said. Instead, he's investing in people like us, people who understand that work isn't something to be ashamed of. The article included a photo of me presenting the scholarships. I was wearing my Carhartt shirt and work boots. Didn't try to dress up or pretend to be something I wasn't. The headline read, Real Success Wears Work Clothes. Mike Davis called me that morning. Tom, you see the paper today? Yeah, nice article. More than nice. Or, you know what this is? This is proof that doing the right thing actually matters. Sometimes. Always, brother. Always. He was right. The scholarship fund had generated more positive attention than anything I'd done in 35 years of construction. Other business owners were starting similar programs. The mayor announced a new initiative supporting trade education. One act of setting boundaries had rippled outward, creating real change, but the personal cost was still painful. Ashley called occasionally, usually late at night, usually drunk, usually crying. The conversations followed the same pattern. Dad, I'm sorry. I know. I was stupid, selfish, wrong about everything. Yes. Can you forgive me? I have forgiven you, Ashley. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back to the way things were. What does it mean then? It means I don't hate you. It means I hope you learn from this. It means if you ever genuinely change, we might have a relationship again. How do I prove I've changed? You don't prove it to me. You prove it to yourself. The calls always ended the same way. Her hanging up, frustrated that forgiveness couldn't be negotiated like a business deal. But I meant what I said. The door wasn't permanently closed. It was just locked until she found the right key. The key wasn't apologies. It wasn't promises. It wasn't even restitution. The key was respect, real respect, the kind that acknowledges other people's worth regardless of their social status or bank account. Ashley had never learned that lesson. Maybe she never would. But the 25 scholarship recipients understood it instinctively. They knew the difference between earned success and inherited privilege. They knew that dignity came from work, not from looking down on others who worked differently. They knew what Ashley had forgotten, that every honest job matters. Every skilled trade matters. Every person who builds something useful matters. In choosing them over her, I wasn't just setting boundaries. I was investing in the future I wanted to see. A future where hard work was respected, not mocked. Where family loyalty was mutual, not one-sided. Where success was measured by what you built, not by what you inherited. Ashley could still be part of that future, but only if she chose to earn her place in it, the way everyone else had to. 6 months after the gala, I was exactly where I wanted to be. My apartment was small but perfect. No maintenance, no yard work, no property taxes. Just a place to sleep, eat, and watch the news. Everything I actually needed. Wilson Brothers Construction was busier than ever. The federal investigation had opened up new opportunities. Apparently, being the guy who exposed corruption made other organizations want to work with me. We'd landed 3 major municipal contracts and hired 8 new employees. The scholarship fund was growing too. Other donors were contributing. Local unions were matching contributions. What started as my personal betrayal had become a community cause. But the real change was internal. For 35 years, I'd measured my worth by other people's approval, especially my family's approval. I'd worked myself nearly to death trying to give Ashley everything she wanted, hoping she'd respect what I'd accomplished. Instead, she'd been ashamed of me. That was her loss, not mine. These days, I wake up at 6 a.m. not because I have to, but because I want to. I check on job sites, review contracts, meet with clients who value my expertise, people who understand that experience matters more than pedigree. Last week, the mayor asked me to serve on the City Planning Commission. Tom, he said, we need someone who understands how things actually get built, not just how they look on paper. I accepted. Not because I needed the recognition, but because I had something to contribute. That's the difference between earning respect and demanding it. Ashley called last Sunday, sober this time, which was progress. Dad, I got a job. Good for you. It's just retail. Target in the electronics department, $8.50 an hour, $8.50, minimum wage, for a woman with a college degree and 5 years of marketing experience. How do you feel about it? Humiliated, embarrassed, like everyone's watching me fail. And grateful. They hired me even though they knew about Brad, about everything. The manager said everyone deserves a second chance. It was the first time I'd heard her acknowledge that she needed a second chance. That's good, Ashley. Dad, I understand now. What you meant about earning respect. Do you? When I walk into Target wearing my red vest, some people recognize me. They whisper, point, laugh.
Yesterday, a customer asked me why I wasn't in jail with my husband. What did you say? I said I wasn't my husband. I said I was just trying to make an honest living. Honest living. Progress. It made me think about all those times I was embarrassed by your work clothes, your truck, your hands. She paused. I was so stupid, Dad. You were making an honest living. You were building things that mattered. And I was ashamed of that? Yes, you were. Can you forgive me? I told you before, I already have. Can we try again? Not like before. I know that's gone. But maybe something new? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Ashley, respect has to be mutual. Can you respect what I do? Can you respect who I am? Without trying to change me or hide me or make me into something I'm not? Yes. Can you understand that my life has value even if it doesn't impress your friends? I don't have those friends anymore. That's not the point.
The point is understanding that honest work has dignity regardless of what anyone else thinks. I understand that now. Then yes, we can try again. We talked for another hour about her job, her small apartment, her plans to maybe go back to school. Nothing dramatic, nothing life-changing, just a father and daughter trying to rebuild something that had been broken. It would take time. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. But we had time, and I had something I'd never had before. Boundaries that wouldn't be crossed. I'm Tom Wilson. I build things, good things, things that last. And if you're watching this, I hope you'll build something too. Something honest, something you can be proud of, something that's truly yours. If you've got a story about setting boundaries or standing up for yourself, leave it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because everyone deserves respect, especially people who've earned it.